lead going, just simply with regard to getting his Flare into play and just killing people absolutely murderously, where it feels like you've got no business winning those games. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I quite like the fact that it's especially Rivals of Ixalan that brought this deck to the forefront because of Zetalpa.
Okay, so the bad news, gents, is that when we went to the deck list screen, the sound went off. So all that explanation that you did, don't think anyone heard it. So let's go back to the beginning. Tim, this looks like a fascinating deck. What's going on?
Essentially, it's got one big trick that it wants to play, and that big trick involves Soulflare. Soulflare being a 6-mana 4/4 with Delve, so you can cast it for 2 mana, and ideally you do want to delve a full 4 cards, because when you delve with it, each creature that was exiled, if it has any of the following abilities, it will gain those abilities. The creature delved, and Soulflare, and so on. Mm-hmm. So the abilities are Flying, First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Now, there are a few key creatures in the deck, Zetalpa, Primal Dawn, Drogskull Reaver, Sylvan Caryatid, Spark Elemental, that have essentially all of those abilities between them, and if you happen to cast a Soulflare delving Zetalpa, Drogskull Reaver, and Sylvan Caryatid and Spark Elemental, you have a creature that is nigh unremovable and will kill opponents insanely fast. It's a very, very potent combo if you get it off, and sometimes you're just a deck with Lingering Souls and Bloodgust.
Works for me. That was really good, Tim.
Oh dear. It's like, is it going to work, Matej? Do you think?
It might work. The deck has a lot of digging and Fatalist Looting and Grizzle Salvage, so I'm communicating with gods even, so I think it can find it Soulflare. Resolving it, though, that might be the bigger issue.
All right, well, the players are ready. Let's head down to the feature match area. As you see, we've got a huge crowd behind us, and it's time for round number 9 here at Grand Prix Lyon. Get out of here.
Good morning, hello, and welcome to round 9 here at Grand Prix Lyon. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Rich Hagen and Matej, Big Z Zadelkai, and we get a chance to see good old-fashioned Jund against, well, the new hotness. You cast a Thoughtseize on turn 1 against your opponent at 6 and 2 on day 2 of a GP. You do not necessarily expect to see Zetalpa, Primal Dawn in their hand, alongside Lotleth Troll, Sylvan Caryatid, Bloodgast, and that Spark Elemental. But that's exactly what Julien Rouar has achieved. I've got no idea what he thinks is going on here, but even just in the dark, you look at that hand, you see all those different colours. There's got to be a temptation to take that Sylvan Caryatid, surely, Matej?
Yeah, definitely. The Caryatid seems like the best card. For me, the biggest surprise, if I hadn't seen the deck list and I was sitting in Julien's seat and I played the turn 1 Thoughtseize, I would be like, what in the world is going on here? I have no idea. Is this some sort of reanimator deck? And it is and it isn't. And as you called it out, Sylvan Caryatid is the card that gets taken out. And maybe Julien thinks it's some sort of ramp deck, and the Caryatid is very important here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. The Caryatid, in some respects, the fact that it's got hexproof is one of the key reasons that it's in the deck. Yes, it can help sort out your mana. Yes, it can help accelerate you a little bit. But it may actually be that Andreas Schulte here doesn't mind too much it being in the graveyard, because it will mean that there's a hexproof creature in the graveyard for Soulflare, which is a pretty important piece of the puzzle, especially against a removal-heavy deck like Jund. Getting down a Lotleth Troll might actually be pretty important for him too, because if he can play it with the mana up to regenerate it, it's kind of a problem for Jund to remove.
Look at that, turn 1 Spark Elemental after having discarded Sylvan Caryatid. What is going on here? Julien must be thinking, but yeah, at least Haste and Hexproof are the two card types in the graveyard.
And Trample.
And Trample, yeah, of course, quite important. One of the biggest problem, though, for the whole Soulflare shenanigans plan is that Liliana of the Veil is a card that the deck really has. The only way to deal with it is having more than one creature in play, and it's going to be difficult.
Emo NYC in chat. You made a huge list of keywords, Tim, but quite important, Soulflare doesn't copy Defender.
That is accurate. It would be a little bit of a problem were that to be the case.
Weak card.
So we see a Fatal Push here on Lotleth Troll, and in response, Bloodgast gets discarded. No massive surprises that one wanted to get into the graveyard. It's just more efficient it being there. But Zetalpa, Primal Dawn also being discarded. At this point, the graveyard's loaded. At any point, if Andreas Schulte manages to find himself a Soul Flare, he's going to be able to make an absolutely terrifying monster. Let us count the ways. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not he can find one in a relatively short space of time. I mean, at the moment, the Jund deck is doing its best to be more controlling, shall we say. It's not presenting too much of a clock, but that could easily turn around. Bloodghast coming to play thanks to that fetch land coming down. Huntmaster of the Fells getting revealed by Dark Confidant. This makes it an interesting race.
Yeah, that's already a 10. It's actually quite important that a lot of the cards in the graveyard, they also give double strikes. So, I mean, the Soul Flare doesn't just hit for 4, it hits for actually 8, which could be quite relevant with the Dark Confidant on the table. And I think Schulte drew a Grizzly Salvage. So if Julien does not have some sort of disruption, something like Thoughtseize or Inquisition even might not even help if he finds the Soul Flare. It's quite interesting.
Just want to say thanks to Tactical Rainbow in chat, who says, "This is why I stay up for Euro GPs. Soul Flare Game 1, Day 2. You guys are amazing."
Aww.
Well, thanks, Tactical Rainbow. We were up half the night trying to find this one.
Oh, here we go.
End of turn Grizzly Salvage. I'll take this Soul Flare, thank you very much. Don't read those ones, Julien. They're not the important ones here.
Yeah, read the other card. There we go.
Oh, we got ourselves a reader here.
Yeah, we have some people standing next to us watching on our screen, and they're all chuckling away.
They're also all leaning in to try and see what this thing is.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, the first time that you virtually sleeve this deck on Magic Online, or indeed sleeve it up in real life, the first time that you cast a Soul Flare, it is really difficult not to get the giggles, because you're doing so much with so little in some respects. You're casting a 2-mana spell, and you're getting a 4/4 demon with more abilities than I think any creature has ever been printed with. Though please chat, let me know if there are any creatures with more keyword abilities than this Soul Flare is going to end up with, because quite frankly, that means that I want to include those creatures in a later iteration of this deck.
When you built this yesterday, Tim, did you use your I'm Tim Willoughby from the coverage team account, or did you use your utter stealth, no one will ever know it's me account?
I was fully showing off this one on the coverage account. Jumped into a league on Magic Online with it.
All right, here we go.
So, Zatalpa, Sylvan Caryatid, Spark Elemental, and something.
And Bloodstainmire.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, there we go. Haste, Trample, Hexproof, Double Strike, Flying, Indestructible, and Vigilance. Best of luck.
Oh, it's so good. Okay. He's got a Dark Confidant, though. That's an incredibly powerful Magic card.
It's true.
Reading it what does it have? It's actually he's attacking for lethal to get with Bloodghast. Look at Julien, he's just laughing away.
I mean, that's the appropriate response here. If you're not having a good time, then quite frankly, what are you doing?
Honestly, can I put my pro hat on a little bit? At least a little bit.
Is that his pro hat that he's got on there?
No, it's now the Bloodghast is going to get killed, and if Julien has a Liliana of the Last Veil, then there's a way to actually kill the Soul Flare. If he survives the Dark Confidant reveal, of course.
I mean, there's also the case of that he's on 2, which means that Bloodghast will be coming back with haste. So it's, even once that's happened, he could top deck a Spark Elemental. That's a pretty good way of getting extra damage.
I still don't like the way you think, Matej.
Yeah, I was just thinking that he could have kept up his fetch line from the previous turn in case something like a Liliana would come up, so they can, at instant speed, fetch a land and bring the Bloodghast back to sacrifice it. But I'm being nitpicky here. He got there. We should be happy, I know.
Astral Slide asks, what does it have? It has everything.
Doesn't have lifelink. No Jog Skull Reaver. That means that Andreas Schulte is not gaining a crazy amount of life. And there are matchups where that lifelink's pretty important.
Yeah, it also doesn't have reach.
Not for now.
Very sad.
In fact, reach, I think, is one of the few abilities that there isn't a way in the deck. Death Touch and Reach are the two that it's not possible for Soul Flare to get in this particular build. But Soul Flare taking down game 1, that's how Andreas Schulte drew it up. And well, we called it Soul Flare Surprise. I'm pretty confident that Julien Rouar was surprised by the outcome of that game 1.
I'm going to have a word with our director, Steve, and just wonder whether we can pull up the deck list again. Ideally this time where they can still hear us talk as well. That'd be good. So let's try that and see if we can get you that once again, because it is. We're starting to think this might be a thing of beauty here in the utterly unexplored modern format, where every deck is a surprise. And here it is, the Soul Flare Surprise. All right, Matej, what's going on here? For people who are just arriving and wondering, wait, they're at the GP, but is this like a side event or something going on? No, this is modern. What's the surprise?
So basically what happened, to recap, it was 2 easy steps. Step 1 was to play Grizzly Salvage, mill some good cards, find a Soul Flare. Step 2 was playing the Soul Flare, exiling Zetalpa, Sylvan Caryatid, Spark Elemental, and having a 4/4 flying double strike Vigilance Trample, Indestructible Haste, Hexproof, not Defender. Soul Flare, hitting for 8. To be fair, Julien was helping Andreas quite a bit there with with his own Dark Confidant, revealing on Master of the Fells. But yeah, even without that would be one more turn needed for another hit. And yeah, the swings for 8 are huge.
And also, I mean, there are plenty of decks in Modern that do use their life total as a resource. There's any number of Grixis, Jund, Abzan, blah, 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 Death Shadow decks. All of those want to put themselves on low life. There's any number of decks that are playing, obviously, your Wooded Foothills and so on, and you're just gradually taking your life total away. There are all the Thoughtseize decks that are taking their own life away. So, yes, obviously, the Dark Confidence, the extreme version of that, but there's an awful lot of life as a resource, Tim, in Modern.
There is, and I guess that it's worth thinking about how that game would have gone had Andreas' opponent been on a higher life total. If it had worked out that the Soul Flare had left his opponent on, let's say, 9 rather than 2, that Soul Flare, it's still got Vigilance and Double Strike and Trample. It's a gigantic brick wall for any attacks that are coming the other way. It's still got Hexproof, which makes it Hexproof and Indestructible, which makes it basically only removable with sacrifice effects. If he has to win the game in a couple of swings rather than in just one, that's still a very achievable task. And a 4/4 double strike against almost every opponent in the format, 2 swings ought to be enough to do it. And if it's not enough to do it, I mean, obviously if someone's gained infinite life, this deck's going to have trouble. But if someone's gained 4 life, if they're on 24, that's still only 3 swings, and it's 3 swings with a creature that in a lot of circumstances is also making attacking for your opponent very, very complicated.
I'm going to make some of you in chat a little bit sad. You're asking for the sideboard. Of course, we understand why you would want that. But Andreas Schulte can still win this GP right now. So we have a policy. We have access to a lot of deck lists, a lot of information. And let's be honest, sideboards are kind of important, right? So the deal is we're not going to show you the sideboard right now. Indeed, we're not going to show you any sideboards through the Swiss rounds of the tournament. So even in round 14 or 15, we've been showing you deck lists usually for our second match each round for both players. We'll continue to do that, but we will not show you the sideboard which Matej's just shown me. So yeah, we'll head back down to the feature match area. But that is the kind of information that a future opponent would find potentially very useful. And while we're happy to share the main deck with you, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to show you this fantastic cool deck, we do feel that sideboard's just a bit too much information.
Too much too soon.
Too much too soon. So I tell you what we'll do, because this is a very special deck. We will make sure that during Sunday Night Magic tonight, during the top 8, we will take a moment to acknowledge this deck once again, and we'll bring you the sideboard too. So for those of you wanting to sleeve it up, take it to F&M for your Modern, or just your Monday Modern at your LGS, you'll be able to do that. So you'll have to be here later this evening. See what I did there? I sort of built an audience for tonight.
Cunning, I like it.
Thank you.
All right, so Julien Rouar, he now knows what's up to some extent. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not that adjusts the way that he plays things a little bit here.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. Rich was talking about the sideboard not revealing, but I have them in front of me, and I'm having a grand old time looking at the sideboard. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it might be interesting even after sideboards. Let me tell that much.
We might see some sideboard cards in action.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that one of the initial things that you have to think about as Schulte that you're going to be playing against is Graveyard Hate. On the face of things, this is the kind of deck that looks like it might have a lot of trouble against Graveyard Hate. But when you actually break it down, let's imagine that in one turn your intention is to cast a Grizzly Salvage and then cast a Soul Flare. You have priority after that Grizzly Salvage has resolved, and Delve is part of the cost of Soul Flare.
Exactly.
So actually, the amount of time that those cards need to be in your graveyard if you want to play the game that way is very short indeed. So short of something like Rest in Peace, this deck can actually play around Graveyard Hate a little bit more than maybe some of the other graveyard decks that we've seen. if you're looking specifically just at Soulflare itself. Obviously, Lingering Souls, Bloodghast, etc. Yes, there will be value in trying to attack this graveyard, but it's maybe not quite as straightforward as it might first appear.
Yeah, it's the same as with the Grixis Shadow list, relying on Gurmag Anglers and Tassigers, and there, of course, the graveyard hit is important, but it's not the end-all be-all of how you attack the deck.
Julian looks like he's in a world of double Tarmogoyf single land.
Yeah, but also I think there's one very important card.
All right, Leyline of the Void is a pretty relevant piece of graveyard hate, because that's one that it's just going to keep cards out of the graveyard from the get-go, and that means that Andreas Schulte's main plan of doing cool things with Soulflare is suddenly not a great plan.
Yeah, as the chat likes to say, rip.
Well, I mean,
it's Leyline of the Void. It's more like LOTV, not RIP.
So looking at this hand, we can see there is at least one sideboard card in it from Andreas Schulte, that being Abrupt Decay. He's brought in a little bit of removal here.
And not great against Leyline of the Void.
As it turns out.
And just a little short there. Actually looking at Andreas' sideboard, and doesn't actually have that many ways to deal with Leyline. He does have something, but there's very few answers in his deck, unfortunately for him. But as we mentioned at the start, the deck does have some alternative plans. There's still, you see the Lotleth Troll, you see an Abrupt Decay. This definitely has some game. It even has like Lingering Souls and Bloodghast. It can definitely attack on the ground. It's just going to be very difficult against something like Tarmogoyf.
Though, of course, the Tarmogoyf will only be pumped up by one set of graveyards in this case. Might take a tiny bit longer to get large. Faithless Looting, on the face of things, is clearly better when you have a graveyard, but it will still help him get rid of cards that maybe aren't doing a whole lot in the circumstance where there's a Leyline in play. Also, if there are answer cards to that Leyline, it will help him find them in a more timely fashion.
Yeah, I think that's the more relevant part at this point. I mean, we know he doesn't have that much, but his hand was not great. He had a bunch of too many lands. At least he can try to find another Troll or a Bloodghast just to get the beatdowns rolling.
Yeah, basically it's faithless less looting.
And Soulflare there getting discarded to Faithless Looting because without a graveyard to work with, it's a 6-mana 4/4 with no abilities.
Yeah, but no second land from Julien, so maybe if Andreas found some sort of beatdown, because he already had to discard the Soulflare knowing it wouldn't be that great. Bloodghast. If Julien whiffs on land for a few more turns, the Bloodghast can really be important in this game.
Now, this is something that we see occasionally in Modern. There are some very, very powerful sideboard cards, and it can feel absolutely horrible to have to mulligan away a key sideboard card in the case even where your hand otherwise looks pretty lackluster. And it's going to be really interesting to me to see how this game ends up playing out. If it works out that Julien doesn't find his second land in timely fashion, he could find himself in a bit of bother here.
Yeah, so just Abrupt Decay and Commune. And you know what? I want to see Andreas hardcast as a Talpa.
Well, in order to do that, he absolutely needs to have a Sylvan Caryatid in play because he only has a single white source in his main deck. So, yes, Sylvan Caryatid, mandatory if you're planning on casting Zatalpa. Casting Zatalpa, definitely kind of the bonus backup plan. Casting Drogskull Reaver a tiny bit easier, though actually I don't think he has any blue sources in his main deck.
He needs Caryatid for each one of them because Caryatid is the only blue source and Caryatid is also the only second white source because he has a 1 Godless Shrine that he fetched up now with the Bloodstained Mire. I think he's going to bring back the Bloodghast here.
Well, he would struggle because there's a Line of the Void in play.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
I'm sure that Julien Rouar would have been quick to point that one out if somehow or other it had slipped by.
Yeah, I get confused because Andreas hesitated for a little bit and went to reach for his now exile pile rather than his graveyard.
Sad trombones there.
Ooh.
Second Sylvan Caryatid. All right. We're at 5 mana. Things get interesting for this deck when it hits about 7 mana.
Yeah, I like it that the deck can't really beat a Leyline of the Void, but maybe it can beat an opponent on one land.
I mean, Lotleth Troll with black mana up, that is a tricky creature to remove for Julien Rouar.
Yeah, he's doing it, and still Julien still with... He has triple Tarmogoyf, Terminate, Handmaster in his hand. Ugh. Okay, Caryatids keep piling on. Okay, Lingering Souls, no flashback.
Let's just make a couple of spirits. not the worst rate, certainly not the best, but sometimes you just got to work with what you got.
He's doing it. He's going the hard cast. He's doing the hard mode, right?
Yep.
This is a motley crew of assorted things from your rare binder that are desperately trying to get things going. But here's the second land from Julien Rouar. He casts Collective Brutality, escalated twice. So he's looking to do a lot of damage here.
Yeah, he wants to get rid of that Abrupt Decay from Andreas' hand because he has those Tarmogoyfs in his hand. Plus he'll get to kill the troll. I assume, at least. We don't quite know which modes are being chosen.
He's escalated twice.
Gain 2, lose 2.
Now, it seems to me like discarding Terminate and Tarmogoyf here a little aggressive, though I guess that his mana base even now is not exciting.
Yeah.
The extra land that he found is a Ghost Quarter, so it's not as if his coloured mana situation is greatly better than previously it was.
Yeah. Motley crew assembled again. Maybe he's going to find another one. But even lands are fine here because at some point he might just draw into like a Grizzly Salvage and find us the Talpa at instant speed.
There's Tarmogoyf. It's a pretty large Tarmogoyf at this point, we must assume.
Yeah, sorcerer, instant, creature, and land. So it's at least 4. Yeah, it is 4. 4/5. His own graveyard is enough for that.
Good old Tarmogoyf, a bit of a mainstay of Modern since the day that the format was first announced.
Okay, Grizzly Salvage. Ooh, the Talpa. Bloodcast.
All right, do you want to live the dream of Satalpa, or are you going to let that dream die and just take a 2-mana 2/1?
It costs 8, Tim. 8.
He's got 5 mana already.
It costs 8. He's really far from it. But on the other hand, I don't think Bloodghast is that much more useful.
A 2/1 that can't block. I mean, he's going for Satalpa. I think that I can speak for essentially the entirety of chat when I say, yes, this is what we wanted to see here.
Yeah.
Yes, the chat is very much with you, Tim, on this one.
We're a team here. It's chat, myself and Andreas versus Julien Rouar. I'm fine with this.
Yeah. Julien's really fighting back. Another Tarmogoyf. The race is on.
All right, so at some point these spirits may have to go on the defensive if the dream is to stay alive. 6 mana now available for Andreas Schulte.
Yeah, so Andreas needs either lands or removal spells for the Tarmogoyf. Anything in between is not great.
Now, you mentioned removal spells. That was one thing there's a bit of a dearth of in the main deck from Andreas Schulte, but we have seen one copy of Abrupt Decay out of his sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially might see a little bit more removal coming from him as we get into the later stages of this game, though ultimately all we really care about is seeing more lands from him so that potentially we can have Satalpa in play.
Satalpa.
Yeah, he's still 2 lands away though. I know I'm being the party pooper here and everything, but I do want to see the Satalpa, but now with 3 lands on Julien's side, this is going to be very difficult for Andreas.
Well, I mean, those Sylvan Caryatids aren't going anywhere unless they really have to block. Scavenging Ooze, that's just a 2/2. I mean, I guess it can eat creatures from Julien's graveyard if he absolutely needs to, but really when it gets right down to it, none of this matters nearly as much as just getting those lands into play. Now, untapped
Drugstore Reaver.
7?
Yes. Reaver. Yes.
Flying, double strike, lifelink, and that extra line that doesn't tend to come into play quite as much because normally it's the ability that can't be gained by Soul Flare. Whenever you gain life, draw a card. So this 3/5, if he wants to, he can block a Tarmogoyf, gain himself 6 life, draw 2 cards, and potentially find himself the additional land he needs to cast a Satalpa.
Just remind me, that little orange symbol on the right, Draw Skull Reaver, that means mythic rare, does it?
Mythic rare.
Okay, good.
And now Julien. He discarded the Terminate earlier, maybe thinking, "Oh, this Terminate is useless. I mean, Satalpa is indestructible. What am I going to use it for?"
Yeah, we didn't see a Droskull Reaver anywhere in game 1, did we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, that was another surprise from this Soulflare surprise list. The big handsy spirit is just ready to gain a whole bunch of life for Andreas Schulte, making this race very, very tricky for Julien Rouar. It will have to block if there's some big swings here from Julien. but in so doing, it will gain him lots of life and draw him lots of cards, making the idea of getting Zatalpa into play quite a reasonable one.
I just curious what Julien has. I know he has a Huntmaster of the Fells, I believe, but it doesn't seem like he has the answer for Drogskull Reaver. I'm pretty sure he would have played it if he had it. So,
I mean, who comes prepared for Drogskull Reaver for this sort of a tournament?
I mean, it's a good card.
Can't fatal push it. It's a spirit. It's already dead.
The thing is, chat, you're in a lose-lose here, because obviously you want Andreas Schulte to win this, but then we won't get a game 3. I want a game 3.
What's he gonna do here? The thing is, even if Julien attacks everything and Drogskull Reaver is gonna trade with the Tarmogoyf or something, if Andreas doesn't draw the 6th land, he still can't get to that Zatalpa. So, okay, just passing. Ooh.
Well, the chat seems to think that the Tarmogoyf wouldn't even trade.
Yeah,
because it's just a
currently
4 power.
4/5.
Yeah.
Possibly.
All right.
Ghost Quarter. Are there any basics in Andreas Schulte's deck?
There are.
Yes, there are.
There's one more. If he didn't, unless he milled it with the Grizzly Salvage, or I think he discarded it to the Fatal's Looting.
Well, that's unfortunate.
This might be important.
Maybe you'll just cast another Drogskull Reaver.
Because Modern's all about keeping people off that crucial 8th mana.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. So this game has gone, but at least now Drogskull Reaver can attack, gain 6 life for Andreas, draw him 2 cards, while still leaving up those 2 carrots if they need to be blocked. But as Julien is dropping down to 4, he doesn't even need the Zatalpa anymore. Just one more attack with the Reaver. Yeah. Art is basically saying, "Give me those cards."
Yeah, I'll take all of them.
2002 Sad Boy, what am I watching? He asks. You are watching Good Morning Magic here on Sunday mornings at the GP. Tim.
Somehow or other, I mean, this deck started off 6-0 yesterday. It lost the last couple of rounds, but it did start off undefeated, and there was a point where it's like, well, we know that this is going to be in the feature match area. It's just a matter of when, and there was no better time for it than first thing on a Sunday morning. What a way to start your day.
Yeah, I talked to Andreas just as he'd lost his round 7 because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about at 6-0, and he was obviously sad to have lost round 7, and he was super excited when he knew he was going to be coming back to kick off the coverage on day 2. There it is! Game, set, and match to the Soulflayer surprise! Oh,
he beating a Leyline of the Void. I mean, truly impressive. But Harkestran, and she was like, I had nothing I could do about this Drogskull Reaver.
So I'm sure that you, like us, would like to hear from Mr. Schulte. My current plan for the first question, Tim, is where were you when you dreamt this lot up?
I like to imagine that this deck has been being built for quite some time, and that actually it was just the addition of Rivals of Ixalan, the addition of Zatalpa, another creature with a lot of abilities all in one place, that suddenly turned it from a crazy little pipe dream that didn't feel like it was quite powerful enough to a deck that was like, all right, let's do this.
So, well, he's ready, so we should find out. Let's head down to the floor for the star of our Good Morning Magic show. Andreas, welcome to the show. It's Rich Hagen here. We spoke yesterday. I'm with Tim Willoughby and Matej Zadelkai. First of all, hi. Congratulations on the win this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have to ask, where did the deck come from?
There are ideas about Soulflayer on the internet, of course, but this kind of build, I think, comes from me. I didn't see anything like that before.
Okay, so when you first saw Zatalpa, Primal Dawn, did you think, hello?
Yeah. I knew I would do this in my deck. It was a 3-off before, but then it was such a good card, I had to put it a 4-off.
Now, I saw this list yesterday, and I must admit, I put it together and played a few games with it at Magic Online last night and had an absolute blast. A question, I guess, for the people that are likely to do the exact same thing in the next few days. This is a deck that can have some really weird-looking opening hands, because there are some cards that you just want them in your graveyard. There are some cards that you sort of clearly need to get things going. What are the key cards that you're looking for in an opening hand to think, yeah, all right, we're doing this?
Yeah, of course. First of all, I mulligan a lot. That's right. I need some cards in mind that synergize with each other. There's a Faithless Looting, of course, is every time the best card I can have in my opening hand. There's Grizzly Savage, always great. Lothleth Troll is a great card. It enables like the other cards. It's I need to see them. Soulflare is not that much important. I'm having 10 cards to find it, so I think that's the easy part.
I want to ask you about that Leyline of the Void in Game 2. Modern is a format of very powerful sideboard options.
Yeah.
But, we felt watching your Game 2, down comes the Leyline of the Void, and chat as well is like, oh god, this is terrible. So what were your thoughts when Leyline of the Void appeared?
Yeah, I thought of just conceding the second game.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was it.
Okay. So when did you start seeing the plan for how you could in fact win Game 2?
I got some hope when I saw that he missed his second land drop. Then I saw, okay, with some 7 carry edits and and much lands, I could do what I did.
Yeah. I have a question, Andreas, for you. How often do you win by hard casting Drogskull Reavers and Zatalpas rather than playing Soulflare? Because I've now for me you have a 50% chance because I've only seen 2 games. But how often does it come up?
I never did it before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a Falconrod Aristocrat that's I've been casting that before, but never Drogskull.
Saved it for the stream. Andreas, congratulations! You've given us a fantastic start to the day. There are lots of different ways to win games of Magic, and you've just shown everyone the last way to win a game of Magic. Thanks so much, and we'll see you again soon. Andreas Schulte, everyone. What a deck, what a guy. Fantastic stuff.
Love it.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to head down to another match right now before we take our first break of the morning. I'm not sure this one's going to be quite so involved and maybe not quite so long, but we're going to show you one of our Time Warp matches. We're showing 3 matches every round getting recorded down in the feature match area. You can see in the background the round ticking on down. But guys, what a way to start the day.
It's going to be an interesting day following that.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll do the best we can. Here's some more Magic starting right now. So it's Martin Juza against Mike Hofmann, and Hoffman's on Infect Him.
Yeah, this is 2 decks that have potentially very, very different plans. Mike Hofmann, in principle, can win the game on turn 2 with his Infect deck if he's able to find enough punt spells. Meanwhile, Martin Juza, yes, he can generate a huge amount of mana with his Tron list, but realistically, turn 3 is where the bombs start dropping for Martin Juza, and they can be gigantic, getting down Karn and similar very, very early. Interested on your thoughts, Matej, as to who this matchup favors.
Well, I think Tron is the deck that in fact wants probably to face the most because it doesn't really have early interaction, and if Mike Hofmann has a hand that's similar to this one, meaning having that turn 1 Glistener Elf, it's just exactly where you want to be because the Tron deck starts interacting on turn 3 at the soonest, and even then you can probably still beat him if you have something like Blossoming Defense up to protect your guys from Karn or similar. So I think Mike Hoffman will be quite happy about this matchup, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we've certainly seen Martin Juza pulling some nice moves out of the bag in the past. Noble Hierarch coming down. That means that Glistener Elf attacking for 2 thanks to Exalted. 2 poison, of course, so already 20% of the way there.
Yeah, and also, just to add on to that, Martin Juza doesn't have a second land, so that makes the job of the Infect deck that much easier. And there you see it, +6/+6, then +1/+1 from the Noble Hierarch. That's 8, and that's done.
All right.
Turn 3.
Marvellous. Shall we show game 2 then?
Yeah, might as well. Thanks to the wonders of Time Walk, this match going to go even faster because we don't need to see any of the shuffling. It looks like there's been a mulligan here from Mike Hofmann. And after sideboarding, there's a potential for a little bit more interaction from Martin Juza. He could have the likes of spatial contortion and similar to kill off creatures. Noble Hierarch, the first play from Mike Hofmann alongside that Pendelhaven. So any creatures that he has attacking are going to get a little bit of a boost there, but no infect creature just yet.
Yeah, and being on the play is very important for Martin because the fact that he can interact a bit sooner and have that Tron up on turn 3 is very key. And Mike Hofmann not having an infect creature on turn 1 is certainly another thing that helps Martin Juza get here, as Mike deploys 2 of those on turn 2.
Okay, well, Expedition Map does mean that to go alongside that Urza's Mine and Urza's Power Plant, there is an Urza's Tower going to be there on turn 3. So turn 3 Tron, this is what the Tron deck's looking to achieve. With these 3 lands in play, the Mine and the Power Plant will tap for 2 mana, the Tower will tap for 3 mana, that's 7 overall with just 3 lands. Doesn't seem very fair? Well, you know what? Modern sometimes has some decks that do things that aren't very fair, and this is just one example of that. We'll see what it is that Martin Juza can actually deploy with all of that mana in just a moment. Obviously, Khan, one of the big options there, Khan Liberated. Oblivion Stone, sometimes a nice choice, especially with this start that we've seen from Mike Hofmann, but a lot of it's going to come down to exactly what it is that Martin Juza has in hand, and right now a Chromatic Sphere suggests to me that while he's got the mana, he might not have the things to do with it just yet.
Yeah, he did find an Oblivion Stone, but it only actually, you need 8 mana to play it and blow it up on the same turn, so he wouldn't have been able to cast it anyway, but he might just as well run it out here.
Just a quick question for the 2 of you. Yesterday on the stream, were you watching a match between Eldrazi and Storm, Blue-Red Gift Storm, at some point, where Khan got up to like 26 loyalty or
yes,
something like that?
Between Tron and Storm,
yes.
Tron and Storm,
right, yeah. So that was a 2 of you. I had a formal complaint after the stream that neither of you had said it was the Khan before the Storm.
We have to say some lines for you, Rich, otherwise what are you going to be doing here?
That's an excellent point. Thank you. I was really relieved because I hated to think that would have been missed. So
no, not
good,
at all.
Good.
So that 2 on the table there is just essentially Martin Juza indicating the amount of mana that he has floating here. It gets a little bit fiddly when you've got Chromatic Spheres and so on that are generating mana, and sometimes you're kind of activating those spheres speculatively in the hope that you're going to draw into something appropriate.
You're meant to be commentating on the match for Tate Zattlekai, not appearing in the chat room that I'm meant to be monitoring, and am.
Okay, so here's Ancient Stirrings from Martin Juza, still digging, sees Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Now that one is potentially a very impactful card, assuming that Juza's able to survive until the following turn. It looks like he's not really got any way of interacting here, and with Pendelhaven plus Noble Hierarch plus potentially 2 infect creatures, we could find ourselves in a position where there's going to be another turn 3 win from Mike Hofmann here.
Yeah, well, potentially there is the option. It's a little more complicated. I think he had Might of Old Krosa, which will certainly help him get there. But Martin Juza just took too long to set up, just getting through all those Chromatic Stars and Spheres and Ancient Stirrings. I mean, he does the Oblivion Stone, but this is why I think it's such a good matchup for Infect. There's just so few cards that interact with creatures in the first 3 turns for the Tron decks that's why Infect loves to be in this position. Let's see if Mike Hofmann has the goods here. He found the land. I think he needed the land for double groundswell. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, doesn't even need to do anything complicated with Pendelhaven sequencing. Well, sometimes our Time Walk matches, we can play them in full speed and they still take but a moment, and that I guess is the situation here.
'Tis but a moment's work to advance to 7-2. All right, look, we're going to get out of here. We are still in round number 9, which means we've got more Time Walk action coming up, and we have another sweet deck where there might be trouble at mill. We'll see. So we'll be back after a short break, and we'll see you for more action from round number 9.